What's up, y'all? It's your boy, the Sactownpackhound, back at it with another video, and today, gotta eat a little slice of humble pie and do something I really don't want to do. So I just got back from the Fairfield car show, and we did very well, had a great time, although we could have done a lot better. Now I'm gonna get into that, so bear with me while I kind of give the background to this. I have done videos in the past as to why I prefer SGC over PSA. SGC turnaround time is astronomically fast. From the time you send your cards off to the time you get them back, usually 9 to 11 days. It has the decimal point grades, which PSA does not. I like the way that they look better. I like how it has the big grade, which is easy to see. My son here, he wants to be part of the video. Sorry about that. See you later, buddy. But what I found out, and I was told this, but I was stubborn, is that people that are big in the hobby and that are really serious about this hobby, they don't buy SGC. They only buy PSA. Except for old vintage baseball, then they only want SGC. So it is really, really weird. So I have to put my personal opinions to the side, my personal feelings to the side, and I'm gonna have to crack about 150 slabs, which I've already cracked them. These are the last two, and I'm just going to show you guys how to crack these real quick. I do want to shout out a certain store, though. During the Fairfield show, met a lot of really, really cool people. Met a couple people that weren't so cool, to be honest with you, but that's just the walks of life and how it's always going to be. Found out a couple things. Number one, there's a lot of vendors, resellers, people in the hobby that don't want to be told how to improve their business or be given advice on what they could be doing better because they feel that they're at the top of the game and they're too big to be told. I will never be like that. I am not like that. I will take any and all advice. Anything that I can do to make my brand better, to make my product better, and to make my customers happier, my viewers happier, I am 1,000% all for it. Okay. There are some people that will come out and just give you advice whether you want it or not. Sometimes they're rude. Sometimes they're very respectful. And then there's other people that don't want to come out and give you advice because they don't want to come off as rude. There's some very arrogant people in this hobby, and there's some very, very humble people in this hobby. And I was able to meet some of each. But one of the coolest people that I met, one of the most humble guys that I met, Dave from DVY Collectibles in Martinez. He had a booth right across from mine. He came over, looked at my cards a few times. I noticed he was looking, sparked up a conversation with him, and I actually brought up the SGC over the PSA. And not until then did he come out and he flat out told me like, hey man, if you had all these graded PSA, I would have literally bought half your case by now. But we had a very good conversation relating to SGC and SGC. Also gave me some advice on what I could put in my case, just make it look better to the naked eye, and so grateful for that. But the overall consensus from everybody was you got to switch to PSA, man. You just have to. If you're going to resell, you're going to be doing card shows, you got to resell with PSA. Even when I sell on my eBay store, the SGC tins don't do much better than raw cards, whereas PSA tins, you're going to get 3 to 4 times the value of a raw card. It's just the unfortunate truth. So it is what it is. I've accepted it. You know, I spend a lot of money grading with SGC, and I still like SGC. I have a lot of my personal collection that I'm going to remain with SGC just because I personally like how it looks better. But I know I have to crack them. So I'm going to crack them, and I'm going to show you guys how and what I look for when I submit them to any grading company, SGC, PSA, BGS, anything. So these are actually one of the easiest cases to crack. They're still very good, but it's easy to crack these. A lot of times you have to have a pair of pliers or some shears, and you got to break the corners off here and then pry them, and unfortunately it's pretty easy to damage cards doing that. SGC is a little bit easier. So SGC has these little divots on the top here. This one doesn't have it as clear, but as you can see here, I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but there's little divots in there. So all you need, flathead screwdriver. I use two, one that's very, very thin at the top and one that's a little bit thicker at the top. You still have to be careful because you can still, anytime that you are breaking slabs, you have to be careful. Don't use a ton of force. Don't go straight in towards the card. There's always a chance it'll slide through and damage the card. I've done it, so I know that it's not that hard to do. So all that I do, I find that divot right there. I go in here and I crack it. You hear that crack? I go on top, find this divot, crack it. I find this divot up here and crack it. And then I get my thicker screwdriver, come back, you see it's already cracked. And then what I like to do is I like to put my thumb where the top of the card is, so that way it stops it from pushing in. And I just hold it up top, open it up, boom, it's cracked. I want to make sure it's cracked all the way though. So there it is. I just take my hands, very easy now, pop it off, and there it is. Easy peasy. Card is out, ready to be graded by another company. I'm popping all my 9s and my 9.5s, and I'm gonna submit them to PSA. I got a lot of them. Like I said, I got about 150. So it kind of hurts because it's a lot of money down the drain, but I'm gonna make that money back. I'm getting all these cards ready for Burbank, end of August, so that's gonna be a huge show. These thick cards, this is a really thin, not too thin, but it's still, you know, 55 point. This is a thicker card from Immaculate. I find that a lot of times these thicker cards are easier to crack. I don't know why. Now watch this one not be. But again, I just find the divot, crack it. There it is. It's cracked all the way on top now. Once again, put my thumb there, pop it inside, pop that out, and it's that simple. A lot of people, you know, they think that you gotta crack the corners of the card. You take such a chance on doing that because when you crack this, a lot of times when you break this corner off, this plastic cover will crack all the way down. And what happens occasionally is if it breaks all the way through, a lot of times it will crack inward. Especially if you're putting pressure on it and you're prying it up, it'll cause this end to push in, and it'll actually scratch or indent the card, and then you can't even send it in. So by doing this, you see there's no cracks in the case whatsoever. Easiest way to do it. Can't do it with all slabs, but you can always do that with SGC. When I am sending my cards to get graded, okay, a few things that you really want to look for, and a few things that you want to have on hand. Number one, cleaning cloth. Just simple. I use one that comes with my glasses. Easy. Good magnifying glass. Super, super important. This one has LED lights on it. There's a card cleaning kit that you can get. I got one. I use it occasionally, but not too often. One of the tricks that I have is wax paper and a brand new pencil with a brand new eraser on it, and I will show you why. One of the most important things that you're going to look for right off the bat, centering, obviously. If your card is way off center, most of the times you're going to be better off just selling it raw. You're not really going to get a good grade, and if you get a 7 or an 8, 7 you're not going to get any more than raw anyway. 8, you're really not going to get too much more. You might get 5% more than raw, but normally it's going to be about the exact same amount. So you're really looking for a 9 or 10. So with it being a 9 or 10, it has to be centered almost perfectly. It can be slightly off, but it can't be way off. So that's the first thing that you want to look for, okay? And it's not just side to side. A lot of people think it's just side to side. If a card has a border on it, you also want to look up and down. So where that playbook is, where that is from the top of that box to the top of the card, and where his nameplate is here at the bottom to the bottom of the card. So they're close enough to where I'm happy with sending that in. Now also edges, having soft corners, and the easiest thing that people overlook all the time is they don't clean their cards. If you send this in and you're handling it like this and you get fingerprints on your card, especially a high gloss card, they're not going to clean those off for you. You will have surface imperfections, and it's going to knock that grade down. You could drop all the way down to an 8 if it's really bad, but most of the time, if it's a 10, it's going to drop it to a 9. And you can fix it real easy by just cleaning it with a cloth, okay? So first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to look all around the edges of the card, make sure that the corners are crisp, that there's no soft corners. What I mean by that is if there's fraying on the corners. A lot of times you'll get that with the thicker cards. Immaculate, impeccable, flawless. That's why when those cards grade at 10, they go for such a high premium because they're so hard to get a perfect grade on those cards, because the thick cards are almost always have soft corners. It's hard to find one that does not. But don't forget to turn it over and look at the back. The back is where a lot of times people will look at the front. It'll look really good. They'll turn it in. They'll wonder why they got an 8. But then you turn it over and the back, a lot of times the back are going to be frayed when the fronts are not. So I'm going to look at this. I know I got to clean it. I already see that this bottom right-hand corner is a little bit soft. And this is where this wax paper comes into effect. A lot of times it might not make it perfect, but it can help. I put it on top of the wax. I always also do it on a mat. I never do it on a hard surface. Now tell me if I'm the only one who does this. I don't know, maybe you guys don't like doing this, but tell me if anybody else does this with the wax paper. I put the wax paper over it and I push. I don't push off the card. I push to the edge of the card, and I always go one way. I never push the other way. A lot of times that will help with getting those edges cleaner, and if they're soft, sometimes it'll sharpen those corners up. It's not always going to happen. Sometimes most of the time, you have a soft corner, you're just going to have a soft corner. They do make a card grading kit that has an edging tool. My own personal experience is that I haven't had much luck with it. I find that this wax paper just does just as good, but to each his own, and I know some people that swear by it. I believe it's Kurt's Card Care, or Kit's Card Kit is the name of it. A lot of times also I will be wearing, it's a white glove that I will wear on my other hand when I am doing this. These were already submitted, so I know that they're pretty good already. I'm just going to make double sure before I send it into PSA. This graded a 9.5 with SGC. That's something else I did, is I wrote every single card down and what it graded with SGC so that I can compare it to PSA when I get it back. And don't just look at the corners, look everywhere on the card for imperfections, for indentions. You know, you don't want to pay for a card to get graded and then it get a bad grade, you guys. So once you are happy with the card, all you do, slip it in a sleeve, okay? If you have a thick card like this Immaculate, you want to use the sleeves for thicker cards. The thinner cards, you just use the regular sleeves. And then when you are done with that, you slip it in one of these cheap top loaders here. Now, something else that I do, and you will need 2 different size top loaders. You need this one for the thinner cards, and this one here, which is much bigger, as you can see, for the thicker cards. Do not try to squeeze a thick card in one of these little sleeves. You will damage it. Now, something else I do that not everybody does, I put one of these little sticky Post-its on the back of it, on the sleeve. It just makes it easier for PSA when they get it, or whatever grading company that you go with, to get it out. Also, when I'm sliding these in, I push on the sides a little bit. That just opens it up and it makes the card slide in a lot easier. So I'm going to do the same thing with this Immaculate. These are the ones where you really use that wax paper, because again, it is very difficult to get these all crisp. And something else that people overlook a lot are these windows for the patches. Do not overlook those, you guys, because they're going to be paying real close attention to that. Make sure there's no dings in there. A lot of times you'll have dings along the edges. Very important that those are clean, okay? Also, again, a lot of times you will have soft corners on the backs of these. Pay close attention to that. I know this one's pretty good. I am going to look over it again one more time. I just want to go along the edge and clean this up. Be careful when you have on-card autos. Try not to ever touch where that auto is. You don't want to really rub that auto too much. It can very easily smear. I like this magnifying glass that I have because it has these LEDs that have different stages of brightness. It also has this little spot right here that is like 4 or 5 times magnification as opposed to just 2 or 3. Really pay close attention to the corners, guys. It is, I'm telling you, it is like even this one here. I see this one has, it's not too bad, but to the naked eye, that looks really good. This corner in the back is a little soft, so I'm going to try to work some magic with this right here. The wax paper is going to prevent damage to the card. Now be careful, because I know some people, they don't use an eraser. They will use, it's like a rounded piece of metal, I forgot what it's called, but they will actually use that, and it's very easy to dent these cards, okay? So you don't want to put a lot of pressure on there. That is why I really prefer using an eraser, because number one, obviously it's soft, but it just allows for enough pressure to tighten that corner up without indenting the card. This one right here, right now, I do not expect this to get a 10 because of that corner. This, I believe, was a 9.5 with SGC, and I'm hoping that it comes back a 9 with PSA. I do not turn in cards that I think are going to get any less than a 9. Now, just because you don't think it's going to get a 9 or any less than a 9, don't mean that it won't. I've had cards that I thought looked great that I got back that were 7s, and I have no idea why, but it is what it is. So, again, you got to use the bigger top loaders for these. Slide it on in there. Again, I push on the sides to kind of help it out, and there you go. They are ready for PSA or whatever other company that you wish to send them to. I hope that this helped you guys a little bit. You know, tell me what you guys think about my process. Tell me if you guys have a better process, or if you like what I showed you, or if you don't like what I showed you. You know, tell me if you disagree with some of the things that I do. I don't mind hearing that at all. Like I said, I'm not that guy that's above constructive criticism, never will be. Let me know what you want to see me rip next. Let me know what you want to see next, even if it's not a rip. If it's, you know, listing cards on eBay or going to buy cards. Tell me what you guys want to see, because I really want to have on this channel what you guys want. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you have not already, please don't forget, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and until next time, it's your boy, the Sactownpackhound. Let's get it, y'all.